everyone, and welcome to Talking Reds Live. I am your host, Stewart, and I'm joined by Rob Gutmann. And you know what? It feels like a long time since I've said that, Rob.
It does, mate. It does. I don't think we've done this particular show for a while, have we?
No,
we've done social drinking.
Well, yeah.
But
yeah, you guys haven't seen it, but it's been great.
Yes, yeah, those shows have been great. No, we haven't done it for a while. Why have we been? Were we cancelled? Was our show cancelled for some reason?
I've not specifically dug into this, but we need some questions. But either way,
because we were great.
We are great.
We are great.
Like the Anfield Wrap have finally seen the light, and they've brought their lethal partnership back together. Their own version of Mo and Bobby, although I'm a better dancer than you, and you've got better hair than I am.
Oh, Jesus Christ, my hair's terrible.
No, honestly, I've always loved.
Can I be Nunes, please?
Sprigg.
You can be Mo, I'll be Nunes. Let's just steal on that.
All right, fine. Well, we have got plenty of other things to talk about other than our own hair and dancing abilities. There's a game tonight, as you may well know. We're also going to be talking about the tour that's coming up later this month, and we're going to have a little insert from Team Talk later. But, as I mentioned, we are playing Wolves again tonight, Rob, and there has been some encouraging news from outside of the pitch because, let's face it, there's not been a whole lot of encouragement from the pitch itself. It looks like two of our more influential players who weren't playing on Saturday at Palace will be back in Nunes and Ibu.
Yeah, I keep changing my mind out over who's our best player at the moment because they all fall off cliffs every 2 weeks. I was, funnily enough, just before I got injured, I was going, I think Konate's borderline our best player at the moment. He was playing really, really well away at Brighton in the Cup, particularly. Harsh on Alisson, I think, to this season to make that claim, but I think he's a sensational defender. The only problem is he is proving to be injury prone. Actually, not proving to be. He was before we signed him, I'm afraid. And it might be one of those things he grows out of. He's still a young player. That's the only reservation I've got about him because I think he's already world class as a defender. And I should just shut up and just accept. The good news is that he's available tonight, and I hope he starts alongside Virgil. The other, I think actually even better news is that Darwin is available. We think he's going to be available. We have seen Klopp be cautious, though, with bringing Darwin back too soon before putting him on the bench, but he's so important to us. I looked at that lineup just before Palace at the weekend. What was it? Salah, Firmino and Jota up front. Salah, Gakpo and Jota up front, and went, unless Mo shows up today, and he hasn't shown up a lot this season, where's the goals in the side?
Well, I think when you saw Salah, Gakpo, Nunes play together for a couple of games, you could see very much that Nunes was the link between the three of them, and they both seemed to kind of work off of him. So Jota's not really had a chance to do any of that. Yeah, he's back to the beginning, and this is the thing with the guys coming back, is that they have got to build chemistry with the new guys in training and in games. It takes a bit of time. But, I mean, Nunes, the dynamite himself, Mr. Captain Chaos, and all the things we want to call him, he's now feels like he's going to be able to be effective every time he gets on the pitch. And in terms of the injury, yeah, he was taking injections to play against Real Madrid because it's Real Madrid.
Yeah.
But it will have been over a week since then where he hasn't had to do anything. And if it was good enough to risk him at that point, then he hopefully should be okay by now.
Yeah, inject him like a motherfucker. But I should have said that in my head rather than out loud
maybe.
On a live YouTube. Oh, well, look, Darwin is crucial to us at the moment. I think the interesting thing is if he believes he's safe to play, that there's no residual pain in his shoulder, then him and Salah are the first picks. I think the third choice is not a shoo-in. I think Gakpo, we were all very pleased with his couple of goals. He was, to me, I don't want to quite say poor against Palace, but he really didn't figure.
Well, I mean, he's able to, that thing where he gets the ball on the halfway line, turns around at the defenders.
Yeah.
He's starting to do that more, and that is a weapon. We aren't really seeing here as much of the link up as we were hoping, and he's not raining shots down on goal. He's not whipping balls in dangerously as we were hoping that he would. Admittedly, he's not playing out wide as much. But it's still a work in progress with him. What do you think about your namesake, Mr. Firmino, coming back in?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, it's a real horns of a dilemma. There's a case for any of the three to sit between, effectively, Nunes and Salah in the wider positions. And you could make a case for Bobby he's the one that Mo's most used to. He knitted Mo and Nunes quite well before the World Cup for a few games. So there's a strong case for Bobby to start. Jota can argue he's the one with the better modern pedigree of the three. Do you know what I mean? And as much as he'd had, how long's he had at Liverpool? 2.5 years, a 2.5 year career that's impressed people. He would see himself as part of Liverpool's future, and so he would say, I'm a more certain pick than Bobby. Yeah. And Gakpo has yet to really show, give me my start. And also at some point you think, you've got to give Jota a start. Well, while everybody else isn't firing, maybe tonight's the night. But then again, there's the Gakpo point. He was giving us something, albeit in an understated way, before before the Palace game.
No, it's an interesting question. I think for me, Jota feels like he desperately needs to go. And almost like he's playing like he needs to go. So I'd maybe more be looking to him off the bench rather than the full game, because sometimes when you're in that mode, you can be a bit tight, you don't make great decisions. Whereas when it's late in the game and other players are tired, we saw what happened against Newcastle, we got a load of chances. If that happens again against Wolves, I'd back him to net one. And also, we have to remember, it's against Wolves, and he used to play for them. And he's got a good record against them, so hopefully that will come into play. But yeah, in terms of the game, this is one of our games in hand on some of the other teams around us. None of them, well, two of them ironically were playing in the FA Cup yesterday, Fulham and Brighton. It's kind of redundant to call it a must-win, but from here, we were looking into what it's going to take to get into the top four. There was someone in our Facebook group put a little graphic that said Liverpool need to win 11 out of the next 15 league games to do it. Does that sound feasible to you?
Jesus, I'm going to have a deep sigh. It doesn't feel likely as we sit here this morning, but it's not a miracle required either. It's somewhere between the two. I mean, if you are to qualify for the Champions League, you tend to have to run at a 2 points per game average, which means over a 15 game stretch, you are probably going to have to win 8, maybe 9, allowing to lose one here or there. So it's not hugely above the par, but it does demonstrate that you've got to start winning games in blocks again to achieve this. It's slightly annoyed me that people have been a little bit complacent. I feel around me when we've talked about Liverpool's prospects of going, this isn't like going for the league, they say, so you don't have to win every game, you can afford to drop points. Well, you can't, because we're not there. We're not third, we're not fourth. I don't want to know where we are, but I roughly know where we are relative to Newcastle. Yeah, but people are looking at Newcastle and going, I think, what are we, 5 behind with no game in hand on them at the moment. I don't know how many. Tottenham are possibly even better placed once you do the games in hand, or similar. United feel out of reach unless we can win these two games.
Unless they fall off a cliff as well.
Yeah, I mean this is a big. I know Klopp doesn't like to look past the immediate game, but we're all looking past it. Well, I don't think I'm looking past it as the bigger game in any sense, because the immediate 3 points is crucial, but we do need 6 points.
In terms of believing we can do it, beating Manchester United, beating an admittedly resurgent Manchester United, I think is going to help. And again, it goes into that thing of what it does to our rivals in that. If we see us being able to beat them, they'll think, okay, well, Liverpool getting their act together. And then the muscle memory of previous run-ins can start to come into play. But you're right, I think you can't look at it and say, oh, because there are lots of teams and they're all going to take points off each other, that we can just cruise through. And we have to be able to do the thing that we haven't done so far, which is put performance after performance after performance. But with these players coming back, as you mentioned, like we talk about how bad we've been this season. Ibu started 4 league games. Yeah. That's got to have an influence. Imagine if
let me stop you there. We know he has an injury record. I mean, we bought Ibu. I mean, I don't say I regret it, but it's not a surprise.
No, but at the same token, and this is probably something that's going to be a massive divergence, and we'll talk about it in more detail on another day. There comes a point when everybody getting injured all the time, you have to maybe think it's not just the players.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there are cases where I think we've been unlucky. I think Luis Diaz, who was in the news last night, this morning, and in good news, and as much as Klopp is now saying he's back in more progressive training next week, and the week after, the week of the Real Madrid away game, he should be in full first team training. I'm going to say the Real Madrid game would come too early for him, and now Fulham, which he could have featured in, has been postponed. So he's likely, fingers crossed, to be available after the international break for the 11 game running. Now, going back to your point, his was a contact injury that reoccurred, unluckily. So that one we can say we're unlucky with, but the vast majority of the rest have been, well, a huge amount have been hamstring injuries.
Okay, final point on this. If I guarantee you Luis Diaz and Ibu and Nunes all fit and available for all the remaining league games that we mentioned after the international break, do you think we got it? Do you think we do it?
The trouble is, I'd need to throw in 3 more with them. And then, yeah, actually, well, I'll tell you what. There's a certain, you can call it a spine, but I think if we had, I don't know. Yeah, I feel if we need Ibu and Virgil. Obviously, we need the keeper.
Yes.
I think you wouldn't want to lose both full-backs, let's put it this way, for any protracted. I think we could survive with one of them out. Midfield, don't care.
Well, that's a discussion for another day. In fact, we'll talk about that later.
But in terms of the front three, serious point, I said this before the Palace game to a friend of mine. I said, we have 3 seriously potent forwards in our squad, and they are Salah, Nunes and Diaz. Gakpo, Jota and Firmino are great guys, but they need to be at their very top level to really contribute, to be match winners. Those other 3 could be match winners even on an off day. You need 2 of them on the pitch at any one time to have a fighting chance of winning those games. And more often than not this season, we've only had 1 of them available.
That's a fair point. Now, we're going to discuss some more transfers tattle in the second part of the show. But Rob, can you believe we've reached March already?
No, I was a bit shocked about that. But conversely, I looked at the fixtures and realised the last game of the season is at the very end of May. This is a delayed season.
Yes.
There are still 15 games left. It's not like we're only just at the halfway stage anymore, but 15 is quite a lot of games. It's a shame there's no cup games left apart from the one we won't speak about.
Yeah, no, we won't talk about that. But what we are talking about in March, because obviously we can now say this, later this month, the Anfield Wrap are going to be going back to the USA. Well, technically we're going back to North America because we snuck that Canadian date in there at the top. And we've got a little preview for you all about it right now. There you go. Go out and get those tickets if you can. And props to the people of Detroit and DC for selling out already. The rest of you, you know what you have to do to catch up. So, I promised you transfer tattle, and transfer tattle ye shall have. We're going to start with Mason Mount because his is the name that's been repeated the most often, I would say, in the current talks. There's still a lot of feeling within me in particular that this might be a move to get Chelsea to do what he wants rather than him officially agreeing to go. But I do also conversely think that if he does choose to move, we would be at the front of the queue. Yeah,
I mean, if this was a story coming from outside this country and it was coming from sources we weren't that familiar with, I think we'd say it was an absolute shoo-in that we were being used to get him the contract at Chelsea. Yeah. But the sources who are putting some level of their reputation on the line on this are respected journalists from around our parts. They are saying Liverpool's interest is serious. They are saying the player would be seriously interested in Liverpool if circumstances dictate that he can't sign a new contract at Chelsea. I mean, I was reading reports today that sort of said their squad size is swelling. He doesn't get the minutes he wants at the moment, so they can butter him up. They can increase his wage significantly. He's on reportedly a very low wage relatively at Chelsea, about 70 odd grand a week, so they can double it even. And he might think, well, yeah, but I think Liverpool would do that too. And I can see they're not thrilled with their midfield options at the moment. Whereas Chelsea are Chelsea have, I don't know, God knows how many new guys through the door. So. And they want to see how good those guys are. Mason Mount may be waiting to Christmas before they realise a couple of them aren't up to speed or whatever.
And again, we talk about the idea from a fan's perspective of how it's good when you're always bringing new players in. Fans always want to see transfers. For the players, it's always a little bit different because you want to have quality in your team, but you also want to play. And you want to know that you are going to play regularly. And there's no certainty in Chelsea at the moment. You don't know how many players are going to still be there next season. You don't know what system they're going to play. You don't know who's going to be the manager. With Liverpool, you probably know, well, you know for certain 2 of those things, and maybe even really the 3rd. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I think he might be tempted to be on the move. From Liverpool's point of view, he's a homegrown guy, so come in. I think he would work well in terms of what we want our midfielders to do. The question for me, though, is Chelsea going to sell him to us at a reasonable price?
Well, I was thinking about what that number looks like. It's not a free. It's a year to go. I mean, yeah, I think if you roll back a year, even with a year to go, you'd have gone. It's north of 60 million still. They're on a stickier wicket now, I would say, because they haven't been playing him. Mm-hmm. I think they're also under a bit of pressure to balance the books a little bit. Having gone on their splurge, they have to have. I think they quite definitely said. I don't know how much they spent in the last 2 years. Was it $500 million or something like that? I think they might be saying to themselves, we've got 250 million worth of assets we could sell and bring back. That's why we're doing it. But there's a difference in saying you've got those assets and realising those assets, and also doing it in a relatively reasonable space of time. Now, they may want 60 odd million for Mason Mount, but they may have to settle for 40 or 35 plus add-ons. I think we're talking 35, 40 plus add-ons.
It feels to me a little bit similar to the situation around Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain when he was leaving Arsenal.
Yes.
And that was pretty much on the nose 35 million, wasn't it? Now, obviously that was 5-6 years ago, so inflation might kick it up a little bit. But I feel like that's the kind of world that Liverpool should be looking in. And like you say, it might get done depending upon how easily they can get rid of some of their other so-called deadwood. Another fella who's not dead, very much not dead, and took a lot of interest because...
Who is it? He's not dead.
No, I'll give you another clue. His dad was at the Real Madrid game on Tuesday. Yes, that guy, Alexis Mac Allister. Gary, I mean, we would very much re-energise the Gary Mac song if he did sign.
We would.
His dad is his agent. And
this is Alexis Mac Allister.
Yes, Alexis Mac Allister of Brighton, midfielder, World Cup winner, was at the game Tuesday night. Allegedly as a guest of the club, although that is yet to be confirmed. But, I mean... It sounds like the kind of thing we do, isn't it?
Did your dad leave early like I did? Because the Reds were so shit. Hopefully not.
No, hopefully not. Hopefully he was in a lounge being plied something.
Not looking at the pitch.
No. But, okay, these are the kind of things that start rumours because this is the way Liverpool normally works. Yeah. Now, we were linked heavily with Caicedo. I still think that Caicedo himself is going to be on the move. We were talking before the show about the difficulties of signing one player when there's two players from a club who everyone wants. Yeah. Do you think this is a deal Liverpool can do and should do?
Well, the emerging pedigree of the player makes him a definite. I mean, he ticks a lot of our boxes, doesn't he, with his high energy style. Yes, he's a definite player I think the fans would be happy with. I think Klopp would want. We need midfielders who run around a lot and have still got some legs in them. So all that, again, money's going to be such an issue because everyone Liverpool are linked with now is going to be benchmarked to two deals, as we were saying beforehand. The Enzo Fernandez one at over £100 million, I think. Yeah. And the Jude Bellingham one, which will reach about 120, 130 million pounds in value, comfortably, I suspect. So, a Mac Allister, Brighton, anyone who's selling that calibre of player is going to say, well, you can say my boy isn't Jude, you can say my boy isn't even Enzo Fernandez, but he's not a million miles off them, which means that the price negotiating is going to tend to start north of 80 million for me. Whatever midfield we think's worth, unless we're picking a young boy from Ecuador like Brighton did with Caicedo, who no one's heard of and isn't in wide demand, but our scouts have seen something. Unless we're going into that market, anyone who anyone's heard of, quite frankly, with any kind of a rep, I think it's going to be north of 80 million. And you know, people, I've argued with Neil of this parish, saying people exaggerate these fees. The signs are they're only going in one direction.
No, they are. Now, there was a couple of other fellas who I was watching last night who have been thrown into the mix. Caicedo, obviously, was playing for Brighton. Palhinha of Fulham scored another banger as they went past Leeds. Do you think he would be in that same bracket? Do you think he might be a slightly cheaper option? Or, again, with him already having plenty a year in the Premier League and everyone talking about him, are Fulham just going to be like, well, we can just...
How old is he roughly?
He's 28, I believe.
You see, I think that's outside Liverpool's.
You think that's too much?
I think he's too old. I don't think Liverpool have got a 28-year-old who's fallen off a cliff, right? Called Fabinho. I think, and even our older players aren't that old, but are showing the signs of wear and tear. And even someone like Thiago, you've been brought in as a mature player. We could say at times it's tested him. I think if they're learning lessons from the last 6 months' experience, is that we need very, very fresh legs at this point in our history. And that does imply a younger footballer. I think 26 is the cut-off age for me.
Okay, well that is interesting. I mean, I do look at the way he plays for Fulham, and you do think it's slightly different to how Liverpool play.
Yeah.
He is very much a double pivot there alongside Harrison Reed, and we don't know for sure that we're going to be doing that yet. So yeah, no, it's an interesting one.
And Mateus Nunes is sort of the other double pivot kind of candidate. But again, no one's coming for free at the moment.
No, I mean, obviously...
Apart from a contradiction N'Golo Kante. Then he's no spring chicken.
I was going to say...
I'd buck the
way
whole
to
rule for him.
completely contradict yourself.
No. That's because he's world class.
Well, no, yeah. Well, I mean, is he still... That is a question. Is he still...
I don't know. Every time he rocks up at Anfield or against us, he's looked that way. But who knows? But actually, just diverting, double backing slightly, Graham Potter was talking quite enthusiastically about him in a sense, and there's been talk that they do want to renew his contract, Kante. Now, you don't renew Kante's contract unless you intend to give him games, albeit they'll be managed because of his age and his fitness record. But that'd be another signpost to someone like Mason Mount that there's another body in my way who I thought was going to be gone.
Yeah, although I'm sure that he's not going to be giving Kante any daggers in the dressing room, is he? Everyone loves Kante.
Yeah, no, of course.
Speaking of someone else everyone loves, we had some nice words from our dear departed friend, Mr. Sadio Mane, recently, who's been asked questions about Liverpool, obviously, because...
he's not dead, though, let's stress
no. He departed the club.
Yes.
You're allowed to use that phrase for other things.
We'll
Dang, damn it.
Sorry, I'm here to help.
Now I know I haven't done this for so long. So yes. So yeah, Sadio's been talking very nicely about us because obviously we're a bit of a dumpster fire right now. And he seems to believe that the players are still behind the manager and that he will turn it around. It's a nice thing to say, he's a nice fella, but
yes,
it does also make me think that the rest of football aren't quite as hysterical about it as some elements of the press and fan base are.
I'd like to think that was it. Yeah, we don't know if he's throwing sugar. He's asked a question about his old team and teammates. He's not going to go, Jesus Christ. Yeah. I never thought they'd fall off a cliff like that, but so he was never going to say that.
No.
But he's quite enthused by us. He's showing faith, and I think he's right to do that. I think he's not living it week to week. He's not trudging out of grounds gutted that we've been tongued by Real Madrid or a draw at Palace.
No.
So it's possibly easier from afar, like you say, wider football to go, hang on a second, Jurgen Klopp doesn't suddenly become an idiot who doesn't know what he's doing from being the best manager in the world, near as damn it. You look at Van Dijk, a Trent, a Salah, and Alisson, and you look and you go round around that squad and goes, there's a hell of a lot of quality there. Someone could seriously look at getting egg on their face if they're writing off that squad.
I mean, they tried to do it once before and it didn't work, so hopefully the same thing works again.
Yeah.
Now, one last thing I wanted to throw in. I don't know how we're doing for time. We've just been chatting. This is kind of how we're doing.
Fuad waves at us. Until then,
we're getting this side, which means I can throw this last point in, and I really wanted to throw this last point in. I mentioned that I was watching the FA Cup games last night. The one that I watched the most was Blackburn against Leicester, and Blackburn played Leicester off the park. And the reason I was interested is because they had a young man in midfield called Tyler Morton, who is on loan from Liverpool, and he absolutely bossed it. Now, they were playing with Boubakary Kamara and Ken Dewsbury Hall in midfield, who've been as much as Leicester's first choice defensive set for midfield, played around them. He was so good. He really was. He tired around about 75, 80 minutes, but he very much looked like he was able to keep up with the Premier League midfield. Now, you spoke about the age that you need. He's young.
Was he the best player on the pitch, Blackburn's best player?
I mean, he didn't win Man of the Match, but he was heavily involved in both goals, and I thought that he could have won Man of the Match if he'd scored a goal.
As an attacking eight, you were saying?
Yeah, Sammy Smoldik.
Sammy what?
I feel like I've mispronounced his name.
I'm glad. I hope I didn't.
It
hear what I
sounds
heard.
like Smodix.
So I heard what I heard.
I'm comfortable that he's not watching, even although Tyler might be and pissing himself. Yeah,
Hope his wife.
all of the midfielders, in fact, Blackburn played really well. It looked like they had a stranglehold on them, but his job was as much about stopping.
Sorry. I'll stop laughing at my own joke.
No, you can't.
Good job. We can edit this. Oh no, we can't.
No, we can't. It's live.
Go on,
Of course.
We're professionals.
Are we?
No.
The point I was trying to make is that he did all of the midfield things that we wanted to do. So he was making tackles, he was protecting the ball in tight spaces, he was turning and driving the ball forward, and his delivery was spot on time and time again. And the thing with Tyler always is his height and his athletic ability. He is starting to fill out. I have it on good authority that he's working very hard on that.
Yeah. But he's not the tallest, but that doesn't necessarily matter because you look at Kante or Mascherano.
Alexis Mac Allister.
He had an interesting season last season. I wouldn't call it a breakthrough. He got some appearances and then he was forced to sort of marshal our midfield in the sixth position against Spurs away when Fabinho was out. And he looked like a little boy caught in the headlights, really. It was a game too far from him and he didn't really feature after that.
No.
But he's not, we say he's a young player, he's not an 18-year-old. I reckon he must be heading for 2021, Tyler Morton. Maybe wrong, but it's a good age that you find out whether a player's going to be a player or not.
Well, ironically enough, I feel like if he'd have been in the Liverpool squad this season, he probably would have got some minutes.
Well,
we've been playing, genuinely.
A lot of lads are saying that.
I mean,
James Balaghese somewhere in town or wherever saying that.
And I genuinely did feel for him, particularly in that Spurs game, because I think he wasn't playing alongside a great midfield. I believe Milner was playing in that game as well. So you had the inexperience, and then you had the legs that he was having to cover for, and it's a tough school. But I think, well, obviously, we've had Harvey Elliott go away to Blackburn, really do well and come back in and hit the ground running. We're talking about midfield. We don't know how many players are leaving. At least 4 look like they might be leaving.
Chamberlain, Keita and Milner, we think. Who else is shooing?
Arthur, of course.
Yeah.
He counts.
He does. Well.
Yeah, well, exactly. We were discussing this before the show. He might make an appearance tonight.
He hopes. The reports are that he's been doing double training sessions and that the management are really pleased with his can-do attitude. And he believes he's fit enough and ready enough to be included in the squad for tonight's game at Wolves. You know what? There's a big part of me that would like to see him given a go. And even if I had to see 10 minutes of him in a certain situation, just to find out if we've got another midfielder we could call upon. But I can't see it because we've actually not got that many out injured at the moment, and he's too far down the pecking order.
I'm bang up for the idea of him scoring at St Mary's in the 85th minute to secure Champions League football for Liverpool, and then waving us off into the distance. That might be the best we can hope for from Arthur, but we're hopeful for a win tonight, aren't we, Rob?
Yes, we are, Mo.
Yes,
hopeful.
we are.
Overly confident? Never. Not in this season.
No.
Not in this crappy, crazy season.
Never overly confident, but confident. And to help you get a little bit more confident, we're going to end the show with a clip from the team talk where we hear the boss talking about some of his reasons for being hopeful. And I hope that you are. And I hope we get to do this again soon, mate.
I do too.
Yeah.
Let's book us in.
Oh yeah, and if you are listening and you have enjoyed it, please let people know that you want to see us back together.
You badger them with comments, harass them over and over again until they
stay within legal limits.
Yeah. No stalking.
Thanks as always for watching. We'll see you again soon.
But I really see we have the right mindset, so we are ready to go. But now we have to really do it as well, because then a game is different. That's how it is. You have an opponent who wants the points as well, and we have to go against that. And we have to create, we have to attack, we have to defend, we have to protect, we have to do a lot of things. And I know the boys can do that, and let's give it a try.
Yeah, Phil, it's interesting hearing the sort of parallels with 2021. It felt like we got to a certain point in that season where the injuries stopped, and I made this point on the post-match pint. It feels like Liverpool at some point will need the injuries to stop for some of these things to get better, but I guess that's just symptomatic of their luck in general for what it's felt like this season, and maybe they just need some sort of easier lines at some point.
Yeah, but it feels like it happened about this time, didn't it? So maybe it's like still light outside at 6 o'clock, and that puts them in a positive mindset. And they can sort it out from there. Yeah, it's well better, isn't it? Maybe they go with a spring in the step, going, hey,
spring in the
light
step. Very good.
That was unintentional, but I'll take it.
Imagine the big excuse being seasonal affective disorder.
Hey, honestly, I'll deal on anything at the minute, mate. I'll deal on anything. Yeah, we get it together about this time of year, don't we? All right, I think there's 15 games versus 10, but we lose to Fulham, and I think we were 8th or 9th, and we were looking like we were possibly not even getting Europe.
Gutmann was asking for the manager's head.
Exactly, yeah. You think about it, we looked like we weren't getting Europe, and then 14 months later we're playing in the European Cup final. It shows you how quickly things can change and how we suddenly got it together, went on a run. And the good thing about going on a run at the end of the season, it doesn't just help your objectives in that season, it leaves you in a positive frame of mind for the next one. And if this Liverpool team can finish off that way and go about 36, 37 points from the remaining games, you're looking at it and going, I feel more confident about what we're going to do next season. You add the players in and it brings you into a more positive mindset. Now, they've just got to get into that mindset, and all being well, you go into this international break off 3 or 4 wins, depending on how many games we've got, because we don't actually know yet. And then if we come out of it, get to the other side, and then hopefully just April's good, finish strongly in May, and get to where we need to be and where we all want to be. And that's what we've got to take out this season. Now we've got to adjust our mentality to what we are and what we need. And what we need is basically a team that are half decent and just step up to that level.
YouTube, press the button, become a member of the Anfield Wrap from the heart of the city of Liverpool. The best way to enjoy all your Liverpool-based videos, everything you need, every single day. It is the Anfield Wrap.